You say you want something real, someone close, someone who actually sees you. But the moment it starts to feel real, you pull back. You answer slower. You act colder than you feel. And later, you sit alone wondering why you did it again. You replay the moment. They opened up. They leaned in. They got emotionally closer. And something inside you tightened. Not dislike, not boredom. It felt like pressure. Like standing too close to the edge of something high. Your chest felt exposed. Your mind started scanning for danger. You told yourself you needed space. But what you really needed was safety. This pattern doesn't just affect dating. It shows up with friends, with family. Even in conversations that start to feel honest, you crave depth. But depth feels risky. You might call yourself independent, or private, or just not that emotional. But when you're alone at night, there's a quiet ache. You want someone to stay. And that contradiction is exhausting. You want closeness. But closeness activates something ancient in your nervous system. Something protective. Something fast. Faster than logic. Visual person walking alone at night. Psychology has a name for this tension. It sits inside attachment theory. But this isn't about labels. It's about adaptation. Your brain learned something about connection a long time ago. And it hasn't forgotten. If early closeness felt inconsistent, if vulnerability once led to rejection, if emotional needs were minimized, your brain encoded a rule. Closeness equals risk. Not consciously, but neurologically. The brain is not designed for romance. It's designed for survival. It constantly asks one question: am I safe? When someone gets emotionally close, your system doesn't ask, do I like them? It asks, will this hurt? Visual abstract brain animation. Inside your brain, the amygdala acts like a smoke detector. It scans for emotional threat, rejection, abandonment, loss of control. If your history taught it that closeness precedes pain, it will fire early. And when it fires, your body reacts before you think. Heart rate shifts, breathing tightens. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical part, goes slightly offline. You don't decide to pull away. You feel the need to. This is why later you regret it. Because once the nervous system calms down, logic returns. You realize they weren't attacking you. They were just getting closer. But in the moment, it felt unsafe. Here's the part most people miss. You are not sabotaging connection. You are protecting yourself from anticipated pain. That's not weakness. It's conditioning. Conditioning shaped by repetition. In behavioral psychology, repeated pairings create associations. If vulnerability was paired with shame, your brain links the two. Like touching a hot stove once and never needing to be burned again. The brain generalizes. But emotional learning is less precise than physical pain. You might have been hurt by one person or in one season of life. Yet the brain applies the rule broadly. Better safe than sorry. Visual, empty room with sunlight. Over time, you built an identity around this protection. I'm better on my own. I don't need anyone. I just lose interest fast. Those stories feel empowering, but they're often armor. Identity is powerful. According to cognitive dissonance theory, we protect the story we believe about ourselves. If you see yourself as independent and self-contained, true emotional dependence creates tension, so you reduce that tension by pulling away. This isn't conscious manipulation. It's self-regulation. Your system lowers emotional intensity to reduce perceived threat. Distance becomes relief. Relief becomes reinforcement. That reinforcement loop is crucial. Behavioral science calls it negative reinforcement. You feel anxiety when someone gets close. You create distance. Anxiety decreases. Your brain learns distance equals safety. And the loop strengthens. Each time you withdraw, your nervous system feels calmer. That calmness rewards the behavior. Even if loneliness returns later, the brain prioritizes short-term safety. Visual, waves moving slowly. Think of it like standing in shallow water. The waves approach. You step back. The water recedes. Your body relaxes. You step back again next time. Eventually, you live on the shoreline, close enough to see the ocean, never deep enough to swim. You tell yourself the water is overrated, but part of you still watches it. So no, you're not broken. You're over-adapted. Your nervous system is highly efficient at preventing emotional overwhelm. It just doesn't differentiate between real danger and emotional intimacy. Here's the open question. If your brain learned this pattern, can it unlearn it? And if so, how do you retrain something that activates before you think? The first principle is awareness without shame, noticing the pullback moment, not judging it, just labeling it. In neuroscience, this activates the prefrontal cortex. Naming a feeling reduces amygdala intensity. What to do? When you feel the urge to withdraw, pause for 30 seconds. Say internally, "This is my protection system." Why it works? Labeling creates cognitive distance. Example, instead of ghosting, you delay the reaction. You don't force yourself to open up. You interrupt the automatic loop. That interruption is neuroplasticity in action. Tiny pauses create new pathways. Small repeated changes reshape responses. The second principle is titration. In trauma therapy, titration means small exposure, not flooding, not diving into emotional depth overnight, gradual expansion. What to do? Share something slightly vulnerable, not your deepest fear, just a small truth, why it works. Your nervous system learns closeness can exist without catastrophe. Example, instead of saying, "I'm fine," you say, "I actually felt overwhelmed today." You stay present. You observe the outcome. Often nothing bad happens. Visual notebook with one sentence written. The third principle is rewriting identity, not forcing a new personality, but expanding the story. From "I'm distant" to "I'm learning to stay." Cognitive behavioral psychology shows beliefs shape behavior. If you see yourself as incapable of closeness, you will unconsciously act that way. Shift the belief slightly. Behavior follows gradually. What to do? Write one sentence daily. "I can feel fear and still stay." Why it works? Repetition builds new cognitive schemas. Schemas guide perception. Over time, you'll notice something subtle. The urge to flee doesn't vanish, but it softens. It becomes information, not command. That's emotional regulation. The fourth principle is tolerating discomfort, not eliminating it. Your goal is not to feel zero fear. It's to widen your window of tolerance. The window of tolerance is a neuroscience model. It describes the zone where you can feel emotion without shutting down or exploding. Closeness may push you outside that window. Practice brings it wider. What to do? When intimacy feels intense, focus on your breath. Slow inhale, longer exhale. Why it works? Long exhales activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Example, they're sharing something vulnerable. Your chest tightens. Instead of checking your phone, you breathe and stay. 10 seconds longer than usual. Those 10 seconds matter. They signal to your brain, "We survived this." No rejection, no humiliation, just connection. Visual, slow-moving light patterns. The final principle is secure repetition. Consistency retrains attachment systems. One safe interaction isn't enough. The brain updates through pattern recognition. What to do? Choose one person. Practice small, consistent openness. Why it works? Attachment systems are built relationally. They heal relationally. Example, instead of disappearing for days, you send a simple message. "Hey, I needed a little space, but I'm here." You stay in contact. You break the vanish cycle. Over time, your nervous system gathers data. Closeness does not always equal pain. Vulnerability does not always equal shame. The smoke detector recalibrates. Less false alarms. This doesn't make you suddenly fearless. It makes you gradually secure. Security isn't intensity. It's steadiness. It's staying when part of you wants to run. Remember the ocean metaphor. You don't sprint into deep water. You step in slowly. Let the waves touch your ankles, then your knees, then your waist. Each step rewires expectation. From "I will drown" to "I can float." That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You still crave closeness. That part of you was never broken. It was just competing with a protection system designed to keep you safe. Visual person standing at sunrise. Safety and intimacy can coexist, but your brain needs proof, not promises, not affirmations. Proof through experience. So when you feel that familiar urge to shut down, to withdraw, to cool off too quickly, see it for what it is, protection, and then gently choose one small act of staying. Not perfect openness, just presence, because closeness was never the enemy. Fear was.